Hey everyone, it's Andy. This episode is from an interview that Rick Welch and Rick Big Daddy Carter did 2 weeks ago with actor and screenwriter Brett Prieto. Enjoy.
The Burros of Berea is a conversational podcast.
We study the Bible and we talk about it.
Not all of us are of the same faith.
And one of us doesn't have a faith.
But we still love one another, and we're going to continue to talk about these things.
The things we believe in and the things we believe about what we read in the Bible. Not all of these are necessarily true. Some of it is opinion and speculation. Thank you for
listening and speculating with us.
There you go. That was good. Yes.
You are listening to the Burros of Berea.
Welcome to this program, Brett Prieto. It's so nice to have you. We've talked about this for months, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We've talked about it for months. We've had to push it back a couple times, but nevertheless, we are here.
Yep, and I got Big Daddy here with me. And
oh yeah.
I like your helicopter headphones are killer. I love those.
Ooh.
Are those gamer headphones?
Yes, they are.
Those are killer, man.
That's why you sound so good.
Turtle Beach Stealth.
Oh yeah.
No paid promotion.
Yeah, my son has some of those. So Brett, we obviously let me I'd like for you to tell our audience a little bit more about yourself. I was introduced to you via Bobby Cruikshank very early on.
Yeah, the blue collar scholar, man. Yeah, he's he's like the backbone, or what should I say? He's like the link to, I think, everybody's friendship. Where I'm meeting so many different people through Bob. I joke with Bob. I said, "Dude, you're my best PR guy." I'm meeting so many people through him, like Gary DeMar, Michael Sullivan. I mean, all these people. I'm going, oh shoot! Like as soon as I met Bob, he's like, I gotta introduce you to him. Like, okay, sounds good, man. It's like, oh shoot, all right, here we are. I'm in the mix. This is interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Bob's going to turn out to be like Kevin Bacon. Be 7 degrees to
yes,
7.
Yes, exactly.
7
right.
degrees from Bobby Cruikshank. That's the new game.
Yes.
All of us are going to be 1 degree.
The preterist version.
That's right. And oddly enough, I have some. I'm like only a few degrees away from Kevin Bacon because of some of the films that I've done. So it's like, oh, I did a movie over here with Fred Williamson, who was on From Dusk Till Dawn with Julia Roberts, and Julia Roberts was on Flatliners with Kevin Bacon. And then I'm sure you could do that math equation with other actors as well, because Kevin Bacon's been on so many films. But anyway, I digress on Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I was curious if just obviously this is going to be a testimony series, or episode. So I do want to go back in the history and go from the start all the way up to now. But can you give us a little understanding? Obviously, I saw your film Victory by Submission, which I thought was awesome, with Lee Majors. That was cool. And I know you've done a lot of other things. Kind of tell us what you do today, and tell them about your YouTube channel that is very good, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Shoot, man, I'll try not to be long-winded because that happens to be an issue of mine. I talk too much, so I'm going to try and bring that down.
Well, you're on a podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes. That's right. So I mean, just starting where I'm at now is I live in Arizona right now, and I moved out here from California. I was a Californian my whole life, but what brought me out here was probably 2019. I think that's 2019, 2020 is when you had the mass migration, if you will, from California. I mean, there was that huge exodus, to use a biblical term. So that's why I came out here for an opportunity to start a business, or not start a business, rather open a branch. Let me back up a little bit. My brother-in-law, he runs a complex rehab wheelchair business in Vegas. He called me. I was working with my dad. This was after I was a cop. So I was doing landscape contracting. I'd been doing that for about 3 years. And then my brother-in-law contacted me and said, hey, man, what do you think about opening a branch out in Arizona and do what we do, doing complex rehab wheelchairs for people that have cerebral palsy, MS, things like that. And I was like, sure, I know nothing about that. Let me run that up the flagpole with my old man and see what he says, right? But when I flew it to him, I was like, hey, my brother-in-law, his name's Bogue. I said, Bogue called me and he kind of dropped something on me, and I want to see what you think. So I dropped it to him, and he goes, okay, does it have this? Do you have this? Are you going to be able to do this? Like, he was asking all the questions, right? Benefits, pay, all this stuff. And he goes, I'll be honest with you, man, I don't see a downside to this. I just don't. He said, if I was you, if I was in your shoes, I'd take it right now, because you don't want to be doing 40 years breaking your back in the trenches like I'm doing. He said, you got to find your way. So he's always told me that. My dad and my mom have been, shoot, man, my biggest fans. They're my best support system I've ever had, man. They've always been behind me doing that. So I came out here and we started our branch, and it's been successful so far. And many things have happened in the evangelical world, or in the evangelism world, for me since I've been out here. But you were mentioning the YouTube channel earlier. I'd started that about 5 years ago, but it didn't really start picking up steam until the past probably 6 to 8 months with the type of work that I've been doing. So that's where I'm at now. And that if we want, we can just kind of go back from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I know that recently a lot of the people in the Predators community has been introduced to you because you're working on a script with Mike Sullivan that I had a part in very early on from his book Armageddon Deception. I hired Zach to try to create something. Neither one of us were professional as far as that, so we handed it over to you so that you could tear it to shreds and kind of make it look like a film, which was killer. That's what I know you've been working on that. So if people have heard that, we did that video with Mike quite a bit. Mike's raised some money for that. So that's kind of how I got to know you and heard some of your story, and I can't wait to get into your testimony because it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And as you know now, after taking the dive into the screenwriting world, it's no walk in the park, huh? It's tough, man. But,
yeah, forget about it. Yeah, it's not something that I do very much. I mean, I actually write a lot of film scripts myself, but they're small, very short. Nothing like I didn't even want to try with that book of Mike's and Mike's ideas and everything. So there's a lot to it. I think it's has very good potential. But I'll let you do the professional side of that, and I'll just enjoy. I'm going to try to help him raise money. That's what I want to do.
And that works. That works, man. And I, just having a film background, and also we'll probably get into it maybe a little bit, but since I've been out here, I also wrote a screenplay. So that's I being introduced to everybody in this Predators world.
Now you won an award for this screenplay, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I got.
Wow.
I think, let's see, the plaque is back there. It's by my bobblehead, Johnny Cash. I got
the
Man in Black. The Man in Black is back there. But yeah, so I wrote a screenplay. I had this thought. I had this idea. It was just this little germ in my head floating around for a long time. And I'm a huge wrestling nerd, professional wrestling. Big into when WWE, also known as WWF, but they're getting sued by World Wildlife Federation, so they had to change names. But anyway,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's why they had to change to World Wrestling Entertainment. But I was so into the wrestling world, the territory wrestling. I got biographies on like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, people like that, right? So I always was intrigued by it, and I was like, this is such an interesting world that's been untapped. But to make it interesting, I was once upon a time a cop. I was a cop for 8 years. So I like the idea. I like the bounty hunting idea as opposed to a cop idea, because bounty hunters have a little bit more freedom to do what they want, right? They can color outside the lines, if you will. And there's been quite a few wrestlers in the past that have got out of wrestling and they plunged into bounty hunting. So I went, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a story that takes place in 1992 about two wrestlers who are tossed out of wrestling and go into bounty hunting. And I just love the 80s and 90s, huge action guy. I mean, it's very much in the vein of Lethal. So if Lethal Weapon and The Wrestler had a baby, that's this film.
Sweet.
Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I
And
ask
if
you
you
guys to
guys-
hold
if you
just
guys
for 1
want-
second?
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hold just 1 second? Sorry, 1 second.
Go for it. Okay, he took off. He took off. So what
Yes.
anything you want to say bad about him since he left? What do you got? Come on. Give me all the dirt.
Yes. Yeah. He's
Yeah,
always
I've got this-
distracted quite easily.
Okay, stop talking about him.
You're,
Stop talking
you're
about
so
him.
right.
Yeah.
He's so right. No, but I forgot to, we have this, I'm in a basement. This is where what happens in the basement. Everybody knows what happens in the basement, but, I have this, dehumidifier that keeps the basement nice and dry and everything. And I have it on. It's so loud. And then I'm over here. I've got a freezer over here to my left. I'm like, everything's kicking on, Anyway, sorry.
Right when I sat down, the AC kicked on. I was like, and that's the worst thing you want when it comes to filming. Like when we shoot movies, AC would kick on and the sound guy would go, AC came on. And then they'd have to go send some gopher over to go like this and start messing with the buttons. Don't turn the heater on, turn it off. It's like, oh gosh.
If Jesus ever did come back, Rick would be like, hang on 1 second. Wait.
Yeah. Is it okay if I call you back? My wife's going to work.
Yeah, that's right.
So Brett, whenever, I don't know if you've listened to any of our episodes or any of our testimony episodes, I asked the guest from the very beginning. My first question is always this: to the best of your ability, can you tell me what your earliest memory is of when you heard the name Jesus Christ?
So I guess the earliest memory I think I would have, I was young. I have to say probably 4 or 5 years old. All right. So in my context, I grew up in a very Catholic background. Okay. So my grandpa, he was an immigrant from Spain. And so when he came here, obviously brought his Catholicism with him. And my dad would attend only a Latin only speaking church. Okay. So that's my last name, Prieto is Spanish. So very strong Spanish roots there and Catholic roots. But my mom always had a Bible, always had a Bible laying around. It was always open to the Psalms. And I was exposed to the 10 Commandments, the film, Charlton Heston, very early. So of course that would lead to Ben-Hur. So as a young kid, I was just fascinated by it. I thought the 10 Commandments was such a cool movie. Do you remember when they played on TV and they would play it and they'd have like an intermission and then they would play the last half of it? That was so cool.
Yes, I do.
Gosh, it was so cool, man. They don't do that anymore. It was an event.
They actually did it with The Chosen. I don't know if you know The Chosen guys.
Yeah.
They're doing that in theaters with their actual 5-minute intermissions. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's been in the theater too. It's pretty cool.
And they should bring back intermissions. I just think that's so cool. Schindler's List. I mean, they did that with Schindler's List, but they also did it on TV. I remember watching it on TV, and then you almost have to have that intermission to go, whew, man, you're kind of digesting what you just watched, and you went, all right, intermission's almost over. We're back. Like, oh my gosh, let's see what happens next. And that was cool, right? But we're in such a rush now to get to everything. I mean, we can binge watch Netflix or whatever it is now. And it's just like, give me more, give me more, give me more, instead of just kind of soaking it into your palate and going and asking questions, right? It opens up that opportunity to ask questions. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool. That if The Chosen's doing that, you might have an opportunity to give the gospel to somebody who's like, oh, I had no idea, right? It's just you have no clue who's sitting in the audience, and you could give that elevator pitch, evangelistic moment or gospel. But going back to 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur. When I watch Ben-Hur, I mean, it's Charlton Heston again, right, playing a Jew, and I'm going, okay, Charlton Heston. Okay, this is Moses, right? So you're a kid, you're kind of conflating things, and then all of a sudden somebody pops on the scene, and you go, well, who's that guy? That's Jesus. And you go, okay, who's that? There's some sort of like magnetism, or not magnetism, allure about him. Like who is this guy? Who is this Jesus figure that everyone's pretty much drawn to? And then he gets crucified, right? And you go, okay, well, what does that mean? What does all that mean? I didn't really understand it. And obviously on a Catholic cross, he's hanging there and you're going, well, were him and Moses around the same time? Because I clearly just saw him and Moses together, right? This little kid, right? I'm going, so what's the story here with this cat? I was a little just kind of like, there's something special about him, but I really don't know what that is, right? So that was always kind of couched in my brain, but I just never, obviously you're a young kid. I'm going back to watching, after watching that, I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, I'll go watch Commando and go watch Big Trouble in Little China and all these movies, and I'm back to, my context of what I'm doing. But even that, it's just, there was still that in the back of my head of like, okay, well, who was that guy, right? So that was my earliest exposure to who Jesus is. So.
Wow. Yeah, I remember the same thing. I had a very similar experience when I was young, Brett. I was invited over to a friend's house and for like a birthday party, and everybody's running around, and it just so happened that the father of the sons that was in the living room watching The Greatest Story Ever Told. And that is of course I walked in at the time when they're nailing his hands to the cross, and I remember it being like kind of shocking to me and asking questions, and it opened up an opportunity for him to say, well, this is Jesus, he's the Son of God and he's being sacrificed for all of our sins, and I remember leaving that birthday party with a whole lot more information than whenever I got there. Sure. So I had a very similar thing, like those questions just brought on by that medium. So the gospel can be shared in any medium, but film is a powerful way to share that for sure.
It's huge. I mean, we see what happened with, Passion of the Christ. I mean, that'll play in a little bit to my testimony as well. Because it's along the ride, right? That was 2004 when that came out, I think. But it's funny you said that. You just triggered something in my mind. Greatest story ever told. Around the corner from my house, I was invited to like a little party, and it might have been that because it was showing Adam and Eve came from the dust. It was showing different things like that. Then every kid at the end of it got a plane, and it had this dude on it, a little circular deal about the size of a quarter, and it was Jesus on there. But everyone got it, and you could throw the plane, right? And again, here I am faced with this Jesus guy again going, that's that guy. You know what I mean? But but I will say this, at that party, I was removed from that party because I got in a fight with a kid. So I was a pretty violent boy. All right. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty much a wild card. So yeah, I needless to say, I was not invited back again. So that thanks for bringing that up, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for kicking me out of your Jesus party.
Right. It may have been they invited me back when my mom was so embarrassed she didn't want to take me back, to be honest with you. So
yeah. Well, that's understandable. So you get introduced to the character of Jesus, you hear a little bit. So tell me from there, like, walk me through your life. I'm really interested to see what happens when you have your first encounter with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, man. Okay. So just on the outset, I'll say this. I've never really given a public testimony that's going to be this detailed. So you're going to get a little bit more inside baseball. So are the people that are listening. The audience will as well. But I mean, outside of me giving a little testimony, being baptized, right? You don't want to take up the whole deal because everyone's like, all right, let's go. You can't be in this pool for 4 hours and then this guy's going to dunk you. Like other people are waiting in line. So,
yeah.
So honestly, I grew up in a context all boys. So I was exposed to quite a bit as a kid. All right. So I was exposed to pornography. I was exposed to a lot of things. Right. So that I was very, very attracted to girls. I mean, girls, I was like, oh man, I was like, oh my gosh, who's this Pamela Anderson woman? Oh my gosh, who's this? Who's Cindy Crawford? Who's this? I went, oh my gosh. So I was girl crazy as a young boy, right? So I was very much going, man, I want to find the hottest girl on the planet. Like that was my goal, right? I was a baseball player. I grew up in a family full of baseball players. My granddad was the head coach at Fresno State.
Wow.
And he was the coach there for 34 years. All my uncles played there. My brothers played there. So it was like, I was an athlete. So I was pretty much plunged into, you could say, popularity, right? And as a young kid, I was heavy, all right? I was heavy. So I would get picked on by people, by older kids about my weight and things like that. So that for me, I didn't really have I had confidence on the field, but there wasn't a ton of confidence with in the girl realm, because there's always guys that were in better shape than me as elementary school kids and stuff like that. But then, but even so, as I'm traversing through this, I'm still getting hit with different people in my context. My elementary school was filled with LDS, Latter-day Saints, for the audience that doesn't know what LDS is. Mormons, right? Always great people. And my earliest crushes were all Mormon girls because they were all good looking. And so I was like, oh my God, okay. And I was like, well, they're Mormons. What's that mean? I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. She's good looking. Who cares? But there was still that Catholic thing going on. My mom was very prayerful. I would see her on her knees praying and things like that. And she'd have the Psalms open and I'd go take a look and I'm like, and of course you go and look out of context, like, oh, gosh, this is like a foreign language to me. I don't even know what's going on here, but I'm going to pay homage to it, have respect toward this Bible that's sitting here and God and stuff. I'll get a cross. So I was wearing a little Catholic cross all the time. And I really carried it almost like a good luck charm. It's kind of one of those things like, I wear this, it brings me luck. And I even told that to these girls in 7th grade. So in 6th grade, I got a growth spurt. And then I started getting more attention, right? So I became very vain, very vain. I wanted to dress the best, look the best, all this stuff. And then I started getting more attention. And then, of course, these Mormon girls came up to me, and they both, it sounds really weird, they both had crushes on me. It was weird. But one of them asked me, why do you wear that? Why do you wear that? Because Mormons don't have crosses. They don't wear crosses. They would, one of my friends, his dad tore the cross off his neck. Why would you wear something like that where somebody tortured your brother on it? Because they believe that they're spirit brothers of Jesus, right? So that's the way they look at it. And I was like, well, it brings me luck. That was my whole thing, is it brings me luck. It's brought me luck so far, right? And then I would give them the wink and they go, oh yeah, nice. So anyway, as I started going further along, I started getting exposed to alcohol. 8th grade, early as 8th grade, alcohol, and friends were starting to smoke weed, things like that, right?
Kind of seems like a growth or progression.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I'm going, okay, here we go. So I went, well, these are all the dudes, right? All these athletes, all these football guys, all my baseball guys, football, baseball. And so I was like, well, shoot, man, this is what the cool guys are doing, right? We're all cool. This is what we're doing. And here we go. So I started delving a little bit more into that. And there was a childhood friend I had. His name was Chad. And Chad was very much, he would say a few things about Jesus here and there. And I didn't know much about his Christianity, right? But he called me one time. I'll never forget where I was sitting. I was sitting in my dad's office on this couch, right? There was a TV. Every room had a TV in my house. But there was a TV sitting there, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and I was just talking about girls, and, we got to go to this party this weekend. We got to do this. And he drops it on me like an anvil, because there was something inside of me that I knew what I was doing was completely wrong when it was coming to girl chasing, drinking, and doing things like that. He dropped it on me. It was like a ton of bricks. He goes, hey, Brett, where do you think you'd go if you died today?
This episode is brought to you by Carolina Cases. Are you tired of compromising when it comes to protecting your valuable firearms?
Yes.
No. Well, okay, fine. I'm cool with firearms. I just don't have any. But I can see why you would want to protect them, right? So let us tell you about Carolina Cases, your ultimate destination for hard plastic, impact-proof pistol cases. Carolina Cases are TSA approved and are crafted with high-quality foam, ensuring maximum protection for your firearms during transport or storage. At Carolina Cases, they understand the importance of safeguarding your investments. I can understand that. I have investments. I just don't have firearms. Carolina cases provide unparalleled durability, keeping your pistol safe from impact and damage. So hop on over to www.carolinacases.net to explore their wide range of pistol cases designed to meet your specific needs. Don't settle for less. With Carolina cases, you can ensure your firearms are safely stored, preserve your peace of mind, and protect what matters most. So go to www.carolinacases.net and then enter code BURROWS at checkout to receive free shipping. That's BURROS at checkout to receive shipping. Thanks, guys.
And I went, I honestly, like, it hit me, and I went, honestly, man, I think I'd probably go to hell. And I started getting choked up because in my mind, I thought your good had to outweigh your bad in order to get in, right? It was like this litmus test of going, God's going to be at the pearly gates. And he's like, well, let's just take a look at this tally and see where you're at. I'm like, well, I failed him. I'm going to fail miserably because I'm doing everything wrong, right? Like, I can only walk so many old ladies across the street and drop so much in the tip jar in order to gain some merit with the Lord, right? So he asked me that question, and it hit me, and I immediately just stopped doing what I was doing. As far as, like, after that, I was like, no, I'm not going to go do this. I'm not going to go do that. My friend's like, hey, why don't you come to church with me? And you know what? Okay, hold on. That wasn't 8th grade. I was 14, so I was a freshman. I was a freshman in high school because I remember now because I was getting more deep into what I was doing, right? And then I was starting now. My good friend, his sister was a senior in high school, so we were starting to go to these senior parties. I was a freshman, so I started getting into that, going, oh shoot, I made it, right? I made it. Here I am. I'm like hanging with the big boys now. That guy's the star of the football team. He's telling me to come over here. Let's take a shot. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, this is it. Varsity Blues, dude. I'm winning. So, because that's what it was, right? Varsity Blues came out when I was like in 8th grade. And then, but my buddy, he invited me to his church. And I went, yeah, I'll go with you. He's like, stay the night at my house. We're going to go to church. Then it's going to be a Saturday night service. Then we're going to go Sunday morning.
There's going to be cute girls there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So tell me, what are we looking at? Do the scouting report. What's going on over there?
There's motive. We got it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So I'll wear my Sunday best. But anyway, I get there and the music's it's going. I went, okay. Like, I'm in the lobby, right? Doors open up. And it is what you would call, what I didn't notice at the time, but now I know what it is. It's Holy Rolling. It was a Holy Rolling church, big time charismatic church. And I went, okay. People running around, lady running up and down the aisle, arms up in the air. And I went, oh, shoot, this is kind of chaotic. Okay. I was like, but maybe this is it. Maybe there's something I don't know. So I sit down, and there's a guy up front, and he's giving a testimony, and I don't even remember what it was, but I'm sitting there, and they give a gospel message, and I'm going, man, dude, like, I'm listening to it going, I need this Jesus guy. Does anybody, and at the time, I'm watching people, kind of go, they're going up. If you want to raise your hand and accept Jesus as your Savior, come on up to the altar call. I raise my hand. They go, you, come up here. And my buddy Chad goes with me, and I'm going, well, I thought this dude was already saved. I was like, whatever. I got to get up there. So I go trotting up there, and all of a sudden, I had seen this before on television. I start seeing what I know now is being slain in the spirit. And as soon as somebody says yes to the gospel message, they start speaking in a gibberish. And I go, what is that? I was like, well, this is what that guy in the white suit used to wear when I was a kid. Benny Hinn. It's Benny Hinn.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right? It's Benny Hinn.
Because with that coat.
Yeah, that's right. Am I going to get hit in the back of the head with that thing or what? He's gonna come out of the green room and just go, you're healed, and hit me. But
I loves WWF too.
You know what's funny? You said that. I'm so glad you brought that up, because when I was a kid, there was KAIL TV 53, and they would have wrestling on that channel. And then on TBN, you just click it, maybe a click or two over, and it was TBN. It was either 700 Club. It was Paul Crouch, and I would see that happening there, and I would click back to wrestling, and I go, "What's the difference?" It's a show.
Absolutely.
Right. I go, it's a show. I couldn't differentiate I couldn't separate the two, which honestly, wrestling and televangelism plays into my script because the bad guy on there, he's a corrupt televangelist. So there's a lot of my subconscious that is, and the film has to do with human trafficking. So this televangelist is a human trafficker. And so anyway, I'll say
that's an Emmy. I hear the Emmy coming.
I shoot, man, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? But if you guys want, I could send you guys the script after this. But
please do. I would love to read your script for sure.
I think
you got all the right elements. You got WWF. You got religion. You got all those pieces put together.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
Hey, that's right. And
jet flying, limousine riding.
Right.
Woo!
Yeah.
These gators on. Woo! Yeah.
The Rock and Roll Express.
Oh, dude. Ric Flair, man. Legend. So anyway, it comes up to me. He comes up to me and he asks me if I want to accept Jesus as my Savior. I say, yes, I do. And I'm very emotional at this point. And he goes, now, have you ever spoken in tongues? And I heard, and I didn't want to, I was embarrassed. I was like, yes. And he put the microphone up to me and I went, what do I do? And he goes, just start, whatever comes to you, just start speaking, like these other people are doing. And I went, okay. And so I started doing it and everyone starts cheering and I'm okay. And he goes, now I'm going to hit your head and you're going to go down. Okay. And I went, okay. Boom, hits me. There's a catcher behind me. He catches me. And I lay there on the ground and I'm going, when am I supposed to get up? So I'm kind of looking around and I kind of see people starting to get up. So I get up and I'm like, okay. And then they usher us off the stage and I sit down and a gentleman comes up to me, a real nice man. And he kind of gives me like a little believer's growth packet, right? It's kind of like what Greg Laurie will send out. And by no means am I lumping Greg Laurie in with these guys, but I'm just saying, I'm just making an analogy, right? So he hands me this thing and he says this to me. He leans in and goes, all right, don't be surprised if Jesus visits you tonight. And I go, dude's going to visit me tonight?
What? Is he going to be on his plane? Sorry, that was a callback from an earlier. That's right. And I go, oh, shoot, he's going to visit me tonight? I went, this is how this goes. I went, okay, so all these people in here that were hooting and hollering and running around and all that, one lady saying, I want to be possessed by God. I want to be possessed by God. The guy's like, amen, sister, that type of thing. And I went, okay. I was like, I go back to my buddy's house. I go to sleep. And I'm kind of like restless because I'm waiting for this Jesus figure to pop up. And then I start hearing a voice in my sleep. And the voice sounds very familiar. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what is this? And I look, my buddy is Benny Hinn on the TV. And I wake up and I go, well, that ain't Jesus. And I wake up. So I go, wow.
Okay, he didn't visit me. All right, okay. So we go back to that church. And now it's like Sunday, people clapping. I can hear it from the outside. You get some sort of like, there's a message and a female pastor was up there. And I went, okay, I've never seen this before. Interesting. And as she's on the stage, she's talking. And then all of a sudden I'll never forget this. It's funny, man. I have not recounted this story in a very long time. So all this stuff is flooding back to me.
That's what testimonies do, brother.
Yeah, no doubt. So she's talking normal like you and I are talking now. And then all of a sudden and everyone goes, and starts laughing. And I went, what'd she say? And I went, what was that? I had no clue what it was, right? So now I'm like, if I was there today, I'd go, where's the interpreter? Where's the interpreter? I'd want to know. Where's the interpreter? If you're speaking in a language, I got to know what it is. Where's the interpreter? So anyway, we leave there. It's done. I kind of have a weird, at that point, there was a seed of doubt that was planted because I didn't get this visitation, right? So I go back to school and a few people hear about it. One girl walked, and I feel different. I do. There's something different. I was like, man, I don't want to go party anymore. There is something different going on here. And a girl walks up to me, puts her hand on my shoulder, she says, Brett, I heard you got saved. I go, yeah, I did. And she says, that's amazing. And I went, yeah. And I went, did I? And so I was like, I don't know. And so I kind of separated myself from my friends. And then all of a sudden, it was like, I had a feeling. I was like, I don't know if I believe this. And it hit me. I broke out in a cold sweat at my house. I remember this. And I went, do I even believe anymore? Like, am I going to be damned forever? Like, I don't know if I believe this now. So from there, I sunk kind of into a depression a little bit. And I didn't like the way I was feeling. I was trying to search for answers. And I started asking friends that were Christians, what about this? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, man. There was a lot of I don't know, mans. And that bothered me. And I went, I have so many people that are professing this and they don't know what they profess to believe. Like, they don't own it. This is bothering me. So I was bothered for a really long time. And I went, you know what? I kind of like the feeling a lot better from before. So I'm going to go back. So I went back and I went back into, partying with my buddies, doing the thing, right? And, chasing girls, doing all that. But there was still a sense of guilt that was there. And I feel like I was doing the things I was doing to suppress guilt and also escape the doubt. So I was running, right? I was just kind of running, right? Prodigal son, maybe, if that's what you want to call it. So I was running. And then I had a really good baseball career. I was a varsity 4 years. I was a catcher. So I was in all the crowds, right? I was in the in crowd doing that whole deal. And then my grades, I just got by, man. It was C's, get degrees. And I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take school seriously is what I mean. I thought I was going to be a pro baseball player. I thought that was going to be where I'm going. I'm like, look, this is just where it's at. I got a baseball family. I'm gonna be a pro baseball player. I was going to all the scouting camps, all that stuff, right? I was like, I'm gonna go to this Dodger elite camp. I'm gonna go to this thing over here, and I did well at those. Like, I'll get drafted probably, or I'll go to college for, a little bit, and then I'll get drafted. That was kind of my thinking. But my grades were terrible, so the places that were recruiting me were like, dude, you have over a 3.0, which is good, man, but your SAT was not that great. And then one of my English teachers, he was surprised. He came up to me one time because I did really well in his class. I was always the guy that was doing the reading. I was answering all the questions. And he called me up. He goes, hey, I got a question for you, man. He goes, did you get like hammered drunk? This might take my junior year. Hammered drunk the night before your SAT? Because your SAT, man, not very good. And I go, I'm not a test taker, man. He's like, you're better than this. You're better than this. And I went, I know. I know.
And yes, I did get hammered drunk.
Exactly. Exactly. I answer that in the affirmative, sir. But anyway, so I ended up going to City College. A couple of my buddies were going there. I was like, it's going to be a blast. I had a really, really good fall, but I was partying hard. I was doing so well. They were the number 2 team in the state at Fresno City College. Sac State was number 1, and I was our star hitter on that team. I was the guy that could hit. I'll tell you what, guys. God humbled me. He put me on my back to start that season. I probably had the worst season ever. I got so in my head at the beginning of it. I got to a minor slump in the fall, and then once season rolled around, I carried that in there, and it was rough, man. Like, it was rough for me. Where I sunk down into a depression. I did terrible, and then I got I had a really good relationship with the coach, but we made it to the playoffs, and I got into a fight with this guy. And I told him to do something to himself that he can't physically do. And he said, you're gone. And this guy, mind you, Coach Scott, was awesome guy. All right, awesome guy. Always had all of his teams were legit throughout the annals of time, if you will. They were all great. And he had a relationship with my brother. We had some history with him. But he told me, you're gone. And he thought I was going to, oh, no. And I went, that's fine. And I grabbed my stuff. I started shaking everybody's hand. I'm out of here. Deuces. And everyone's like, what just happened? I was like, that guy right there. But I didn't say that guy. I said something else. Just kicked me off the team. They go, what happened? It was what happened. And then he said, good luck with your career, huh? He said, have a good one. I said, don't worry, I will. So anyway, I use that as fuel for my fire. But let me just backtrack a tad there. During that time, during that season, the Passion of the Christ came out. Okay? Passion of the Christ came out, and my buddy, who was my cohort in partying, he saw it, and that movie flipped him. He came to practice. Jesus is my Savior. I'm not partying anymore. I'm done. And once he said that, I went, oh, he knows. Now my guilt is starting to set in more because I know what I'm doing is wrong. But this guy actually is putting some legs on his faith. He's moving. He's moving forward. And he's getting involved in Bible studies and things like that. And I went, dude, okay. And I think I'm trying to think if I saw it with him or somebody else. I can't remember. But I saw it, and I was like, I believe this, but I don't. You know, it was one of those type of deals. So anyway, from there, I'll condense the baseball thing. I went on to play. I went to Salinas, played some summer ball there. After that, did really well with the Bakersfield JC. And I was still kind of reading different things here and there that people would give me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to slap some religion on myself and say, yeah, I'm good, but I'm still going to kind of dabble. I'm going to live both. I'm going to kind of go down both roads, right? I'm going to be kind of in the middle. I'm going to be lukewarm. But when I was at Bakersfield, someone knocked on my door at my apartment. I open it, and it's an old lady. And she said, I'd like to tell you about Jehovah. And I go, Jehovah? Okay. I grab it, and I go, you know what? I really don't have time to talk about this right now, but can you come back next Saturday? I've been exploring these things, and I'd like to know a little bit more. And she says, that'd be great. Next Saturday rolls around. I've been partying the night before. I'm sitting there at my kitchen table. I peek out the window. The knock on my door was the same lady. And I went, I'm not answering. I don't want to get into this right now. So that was one of my first experiences outside of a girl I went to high school with a Jehovah's Witness. But I just didn't think anything of it. And also, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's going to play into where I'm at now. So I also, unbeknownst to me, I had to look back and I went, oh my gosh. So as a part-time gig, I would do security at the Civic, I think it was the Civic Center in Bakersfield. And there was a Jehovah's Witnesses hold one of their annual conventions there. And I was working security there. And all these religious people were coming up, and they're all booted and suited. And I was just like, I had no clue what they were doing. They're all very nice. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. And looking back now, like I had to think about this in the recent past where I went, oh my gosh, that was a Jehovah's Witness convention, because I was seeing where their conventions are, and I went, oh my gosh, I worked one of those. How crazy is this? This is so weird. But after baseball was done, I played at Bakersfield JC, had a small time at San Jose State. And then after San Jose, I hated it there. I left, and I pursued my acting career. I left San Jose, and I got an agent. And then from there, I was living with my brother in Beverly Hills. So I was I was living in Marina Del Rey, and then in Beverly Hills. So I was really roughing it, struggling actor down there. But he was going to
Roughing It in Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
hey, there's a film title.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. So he was going to SC dental school. My brother's a brainiac, really smart guy. So I moved in with him, and from there I started. You know what I started? I went to a Ralph's. Ralph's over there is like your Kroger, or I guess your Albertsons. It's that type of thing. I think it's Kroger even stored as a brand. Sorry, Albertsons. That's what I could compare it to. So I was in Ralph's,
Is that is it a grocery store? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, a grocery store, something like that. So I look on the shelf and I see this dude's mug with a big smile on his face, and it says, "Your best life now." And I went, I would like to live my best life now. And who wrote it? Oh, Joel Osteen. Never heard of this guy. So I pick it up and I start reading it. And I was like, this is what I've been looking for. I can speak things into existence. This is crazy. I can just speak my reality into it and I'll become an actor. I can get whatever I want. This is crazy. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And he's got a code of Jesus on it. He's using Jesus' name. This is outstanding. This is what I've been looking for. So I was just like, this is great. All right, I'm in. So from there, I was like, Mr. Confident, always Mr. Positive, right? Kind of going like this guy is, like I got God's favor on me, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And
you got the accent down. That was awesome.
Yeah, boy, that's the thing, man. Is like I am prosperous. I do have God's favor, and that's how I was.
Oh my gosh, it's really good. If I close my eyes, I wouldn't be able to tell.
So that's why, so I mean, I was looking for that. So that's why I really latched on to that sort of book. And then I got into, so I started palling around with a girl who was on The Real World. The TV show Real World, right? I'd known her from high school, so I started kind of dating her, that type of thing a little bit, and she was peeling off over here. And then I started dating somebody else. I don't want to get too deep into these relationships at all, but let's just say after that, I got into a relationship I should not have got into. And from there, I was trying to, her and I were partying a lot. Then I was trying to give her a little bit of like, let me read this to you from what Joel said. Joel, not Joel from the Bible, but Joel Osteen said here. And she was like, wow, it's so good. That's amazing, right? But it just, nothing was really like, it was, so she had a little bit of religiosity too. We were wearing like bracelets that had like a Catholic type bracelet with like Jesus on it, Mary and stuff like that. Because we wanted to tack a little bit of religion on this relationship. But anyway, at this time I was doing some short films, doing some commercials, things like that. I was working on probably every TV show in 2007. I was working I was a background guy. So I was like, in order to get in this business, I'm going to do auditions, but I'm going to get used to being on a set. My manager was like, hey, start going on the movie sets, be an extra, get used to it. Just get used to this. But here's the thing. Don't get stuck in background, because if you do it for too long, you become background forever. Just get in there, learn your stuff, get out. So I was in there for a couple of years doing background on CSI Miami. So spoiler alert, CSI Miami shoots in LA. CSI New York, that also shoots there. And then I worked on Greek, Law and Order, Boston Legal. I mean, so you just name it, I was on it. I worked on the movie Hancock, Street Kings with Keanu Reeves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was around all these dudes. I was around all these guys, man. And Keanu, man, Keanu's a nice guy. So he is what everybody says he is online. Like, yeah, he's a nice guy. He is a nice dude. Very nice.
Rick and I talk Matrix stuff all the time.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Yeah. Can you do a Keanu Reeves impression?
Well, it's not as cute as I want it to be, but it can be better.
Every time I try to do it, I end up sounding like a bad Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. My line, people trusted you and they died.
Some great things are happening at the Circle K.
Oh yeah, Bill and Ted. Oh man, classic, dude. I think my favorite movie though of Keanu is Parenthood. Man, Parenthood is one of my favorite roles of Keanu. It's got Steve Martin.
Oh, the Steve Martin film. Yes, yeah. I forgot that he was in that.
Oh, yes. He's the boyfriend. He's the boyfriend. He's like, man, your mom can talk. He's so she hates me. Oh, he's so good.
This episode is brought to you by Carolina Cases. Whether in your home, auto, suitcase, or hotel room, you can be assured that with Carolina Cases, you can protect what matters most. Carolina Cases are TSA approved, so you know your items are secured in a shock and impact-proof hard case. These lightweight, durable cases come with pre-cut protective high-quality foam to fit your pistols by make and model, compact size or full size. They also come in a universal configuration for multiple options. Carolina Cases are more than a pistol case. They are available in fully customizable foam to protect what matters. You can go to their website at www.carolinacases.net to see their designer protective lid designs. Each is laser engraved to give you unmatched style at home or on the range. So protect what matters most. Visit www.carolinacases.net. That's www.carolinacases.net. And also, enter code BURROWS at checkout to receive free shipping. That's right. Just enter the code BURROWS at checkout and you'll receive free shipping.
That's cool. So you worked around on all those things. That's awesome.
Tons of stuff. And then I was a regular on Scrubs. And then you could see me a ton in season 7 and 8. So I really kind of became a fixture on Scrubs. Got to know a lot of the people on there. And then Scrubs ended. All right. So this is where my tale into this is where the tale ends for me momentarily for Hollywood. Like it kind of where I think it ends there, and my relationship with this girl, everything came crashing down. It was one of those other moments where God goes, I'm going to put you on your back again to make you look up because you're trying. So I was sitting in Beverly Hills. Scrubs was done. I wasn't booking anything. Like nothing was happening for me. And I was sitting there in Beverly Hills in this little condo, and I went, I can't even go buy like a beer right now. I don't have any money. My parents are nice enough to send me money, but I'm going, I can't keep doing that. Like I just can't keep doing that. They've been supporting this run for a while, and I just don't want to do it anymore. And I went, and there wasn't an audible voice at all, but I was faced with this. All right, you tried it your way. You've been trying it your way for a very long time. And your buddy Jason, the guy that I went to college with, is one of my best friends, the one that saw Passion of the Christ and was in Bible studies. He had been calling me once a week leading up to this point, going for the past 2 months prior to my exit from Hollywood. Hey man, you in town? Love to have you to Bible study. And I was like, no, man, I'm busy. Even though I knew I'd be going to town to go, whatever, and go back to, because hometown is about 3 hours north of Hollywood. So it was easy for me to go on a weekend or take a few days and go see my parents or whatever. So I kept balking on him. No, I'm good. No, I'm not going. Finally, I pick up the phone. I said, hey, dude, you still got an opening at that Bible study for me to come to? He goes, you're coming back? I go, I'm moving back, dude. He goes, oh, this is great. It's me. It's this dude from high school. It's this guy. Like all the guys that were like, not all of them, but some of the guys that I used to party with, they're all Christians now. And I went, okay, all right. So I go back home. But in that time, I talked to my brother. I go, dude, what should I do? I got to start my life. I got to get something going. He goes, go on a ride along, dude. Go with Marty. Marty was one of his friends. And I went, that's cool. Just going to Cop Car and Chris? He goes, yeah, go check it out. So I go do that. Marty, he was retired, but he sets up this thing for me. I go on a ride along, and from there I go, what do I do? So I take the test. I go into the academy. I don't know if you want to hear my funny story leading up to the academy. It could be pretty long, but just.
Still muted, brother.
You're muted. What was it?
Yeah, sorry. That big loud freezer. So I said, we got all the time right now. It's, you got 8 minutes left of your hour, but if we're good in, let's just keep rocking. You tell us the funny story. Let's just keep going. I'm fascinated. Keep going with it.
All right, cool, man. So I tested for the academy. I studied a ton. I actually smoked the test, did really well. The physical thing, it was no issue for me because I'd already been working out a ton, and that's just my lifestyle, working out and all that. So I end up getting like first bid at the academy, even though it was already filled up. They're like, look, guys, we're pushed out for like 2 years. Good luck getting in. But I had done so well on the test. They said, which one do you want, man? I was like, shoot, ideally, the one that's in 2 months. They go, you're in. I went, oh, wow. I am so green to this. I'm like calling people, what do I need to get? You got to have your 5'11" boots. You gotta have your uniform. You gotta have your tie. You gotta have your tie clip, your hat. You got to have all these learning domains that are stacked high that you got to have and everything else. So I get there, shoes unpolished, sideburns, everybody's got high and tights. And I went, I look a little different. And everyone's looking at me like, who is this fool that just stepped off the bus? And I'm going, oh, shoot. Everyone's got these domains. They're all looking at these domains. And I went, what are they? They go, you don't have these yet? I went, no. I was like, I was hoping to kind of fake my way through this thing. I get in high school. They go, bro, you can't fake the funk here, bro. You got to get this stuff. I was like, oh, my gosh. So keeping this story short, they brought in the drill instructor and 2 of them, and they started weeding out guys. They had us go in formation. They picked me out of the lineup out of everybody, and they made an example of me. And I could get way into that story. They were trying to get rid of me, these drill instructors, but they did not. They didn't get rid of me. And they made me – so here, okay, this will be the funny story that I'll move forward from here, I promise, is I had the sideburns, right? And everybody's standing at attention in the classroom, and they would ask you where you were from and what's your name. And you'd have to say, sir, my name is Cadet Prieto. I am from Clovis, sir. So you always had to start out with sir and end with sir. And so they said, what's your name? I said, sir, my name is Cadet Prieto, sir, and I'm from Clovis, California, sir. He looks at me and goes, Cadet Prieto, they got barbershops in Clovis, Cadet Prieto? Yes, sir, they do. Wow, you look like a rock star with those sideburns, don't you, Cadet Prieto? Yes, sir, I guess I do, sir. They go, you're going to come back. You're going to come back tomorrow, aren't you, rock star? He goes, and those sideburns will be gone, aren't they? And I said, you got it, sir. And he goes, oh, he goes, hey. He calls the other drill instructor over, puts his arm around. He goes, I got a drinking buddy here. You got it, sir. All right, you got it, sir. Why don't you come on over here? And he grabs me by my collar and he goes, I want you to build me a house. And I go, build you a house, sir? And he goes, yeah, build me a house. And I go, I don't know how to do that, sir. And he goes, get in a push-up position. So you have to get in a push-up position. Get on your fingertips. Now start walking toward your hands. So my body, so people that can't see this, my feet are just behind my fingertips. So I look like a scared cat. And he goes, stay there. Ooh, there are 60 other people in this class. He kept me in that position for that long, going to each person, asking who they were and where they were from. I had a pool of sweat dripping. My arms were shaking. I had the biggest pump, Arnold Schwarzenegger status, in my arms. And I'm shaking, going, come on, come on. Like, I'm like gearing myself up. Like, if you fail now, I'm telling you, if you fail now, dude, you're done. Like, you're done. And you can't fail. So anyway, I came up like he finally came out to the get up, and my legs are shaking like a baby giraffe. And I go back to my seat, and everyone's looking at me like, oh, this dude right here. And I went, from there, the switch turned on. I went, I got to be the best here. I got to be the best because they've already tried to weed me out and make an example of me, and I can't have that happen. So in this time, though, I will tell you this. I was a Christian at this point because I had been going to Bible study. And so I was using God's word because we do formation every day. So I was actually would be reciting scripture as I was going through March because I knew this would get me through it. I knew God was going to get me through it. But at the time, I'm still working through my faith, right? I'm still working through it, trying to get questions answered and things like that. And then, and also too, I will say this. I was informed at this Bible study, hey, ditch the Joel Osteen, bro. This is why. And I went, oh, okay. Because they started stacking against the Bible. And I went, okay, I see that. I see that. Now, I became a cop after this. Only a few months after my, so 6 months academy. It's your whole, I mean, it's 6 days a week. You're in classroom doing scenarios, taking tests. I mean, it's hardcore. It was a hardcore deal. So I get picked up by the Madera Police Department. And it was in that time, my apologetics career, if you want to call it that, or life began. Because once I got there, I started having people, I was surrounded by, there was a Jehovah's Witness I worked with. There was a Mormon that I worked with. There were atheists that I worked with. There was a hyper-charismatic that I worked with. And I just didn't have the answers, right? So I was like, I need to know. I got to know. And I started getting into more books. Like, okay, a buddy goes, you need to read these books. So I'm like, okay, I got Chuck Swindoll, Behold the Man. Okay, I'll read this. Great. I got a book from David Jeremiah. Okay, Captured by Grace. All right, this is what I'm talking about. All right, this is good. And then Gospel According to Jesus by John MacArthur. And I opened it up and I went, whoo, that's some heavy lifting right there. I closed that thing up. I was like, maybe for another time. That's heavy lifting. So I started to watch more YouTube because in our patrol cars, we had computers. So when I would drive, I'd go on YouTube, and then I got exposed on YouTube to Dr. Walter Martin. And I went, who's this cat? I went, Kingdom of the Colts. And I went, interesting. This is what I'm talking about. I like this guy. And, Walter Martin, man, he's got, sorry about that.
Well, no, I was getting ready to say, you've got with Walter Martin, if you looked at John MacArthur's book and you look at Walter Martin's book's like that thick.
It's
on the
thick.
Kingdom of the Cults. It's deep and it's really good. I went through it myself.
Yeah, I got it back there. And I honestly didn't pick that up until later because I was watching it on YouTube where I was listening to the audio, right? Because somebody would put it on there and I would just listen to it. And I went, oh, this is good. And then I was starting to listen to more to John MacArthur a lot because in our car, we had Bot Radio Network. And I was like, I'd listen to Bot Radio all the time because it was having all the guys that I was cutting my teeth on, like David Jeremiah, Greg Laurie, Adrian Rogers, John MacArthur. And I was like, okay. And then the Strange Fire Conference came up. And I went, what's this? Because I just got introduced to Justin Peters. And I went, this is what I saw. These guys are lining up the Bible with what I saw when I was a kid. When I was in high school, all the charismatic chaos that I was seeing there, they're addressing it here. And these are the answers I've been looking for. And I watched that and I went, okay. Then I went down this huge path of studying the charismata and what that is and its proper use and context. And I'm going, all right. I watched the Strange Fire Conference, and I will say this: I'd be remiss if I didn't. When I became a cop, I had been single for 3 years. I was just going Bible studies, studying God's word, and then reading some different books that I get my hands on. And my mentality was, look, I'm going to be like Paul. If I needed a wife, God would give it to me, but I don't need it. I'm content with where I'm at. And my buddies thought I was so crazy because I was talking that way a lot. And they were like, dude, they had to pull me aside to go, dude, you don't really mean like you want to be single forever. I go, guys, I'm not saying I want to be single forever. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying that I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble with different gals that I've been involved with, and they haven't been right. And they haven't been what God has for me. If God's going to present that woman to me, I got to make sure it's worth it, right? So I was single, for a few years, and then I went to church on a Wednesday night service, and I'm getting some coffee, and I look to my left, and I do a double take, and I go, oh my goodness, that is Little Winder, and I'll explain what that means. My brother dated a girl named Charity Winder a long time ago. And I'd always seen, she has tons of sisters. This was the little sister. So she was always the Little Winder. And when I saw her, I went, that's the Little Winder. And she ain't little anymore. I went, I got to talk to her. So I went, oh, wow. So she's 3 years younger than me. But when my brother dated her sister, he was in college. He was in college. She was like a senior in high school or something. I think she was like 18 or 19. And she'd bring her around, and she was like in 7th grade. And I was in high school. I was like, it's the Little Winder. Wasn't little anymore. And I went, you got to go. You got to say what's up to her. And so I was like, how can I find my in? And I see a girl that I knew from the girls' Bible study group that we used to hang out with and do barbecues. I went, there's my in. And I walked up and said, hey, what's up, so-and-so? And I was like, and you are Little Winder, your Charity sister. She said, and you're a Prieto. I said, yeah. So we started talking, house family, yada, yada. From there, we sat next to each other, and I could not tell you what the sermon was about because I was too busy doing this the whole time. Just looking at it. I could not keep my eyes off this woman. I went, oh my gosh, she's got
giving her the old side eye.
Yeah.
I was giving the old side eye. So after that, she didn't really, there wasn't any interest from her, which to me, I was like, that's okay. All right. To me, I'm like, I usually kind of get a vibe, but there's no vibe from this girl. And so I did a little investigating. Facebook, when I had one, I hit up her sister. Hey, I ran into your sister the other day. And she's like, oh, that's great. Cool. How's everything? And I said, hey, is she got a dude or what? She got a fella? And she goes, no, but you're not going to send her some DM. You're going to call her like a man. And I said, oh, I know. I was like, that's why I'm hitting you up. So anyway, from there, we go on a date.
Said, I want to write her a letter. Can I? We're kicking it old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So from there, we started dating a little bit, but I was working nights. She was working in the daytime. So we were kind of like two ships in the night trying to make it work. But providentially, I got into a massive car accident as a cop. I was on my way to a call, and I decided to plunge my patrol car into a big rig. And yeah. So my face was blown open. That scar that I have right here, it plays into some of the movies that I'm in. But what's interesting is this. When I became a cop, I'm like scatterbrained. Like all this stuff's coming back to me.
Yeah, so that's what happens. It's okay. We're listening.
Yeah. So check this out. This is so weird. I don't know why I didn't bring this up. So I started dating her, but I was getting phone calls for movies. Weirdest thing. I started getting phone calls for short films. And I was like, yeah, I'm a cop, but yeah, I can do short films. I got to see if it's okay. I'm like, yeah, go for it. Do your thing. Because everybody knew me as Hollywood. When I got to the police department, they were like, Hollywood's here. So I'll tell you, I got ragged on a lot, but I just wore it, right?
Was Hollywood your call sign?
Yeah, pretty much. It should have been. Everyone's like, where's Hollywood at? Like Hollywood,
it's
like
better.
Everybody would see me.
It's better than Miami Vice.
That's right. So Hollywood's in the building. But so I started getting a lot of phone calls for shorts. Like, yeah, I'll do a short film. That sounds great, man. Cool. But my question was always, what are you guys shooting on? Like, what kind of camera? I don't want this to be like the best of backyard wrestling. You're using your mom's video camera and there's tapes that you got to flip. I was like, no, it's got to be good equipment. No, this is good stuff, whatever. So I was like, I need to build my reel. This is something I never had before. It's building a reel. Because they would always ask you at auditions when you were in Hollywood, do you have a reel? And my answer was always, no. So that was tough, right? Because they always wanted to see a reel. So from all these short films, I built a reel up. And somebody had seen my reel. And they had been looking for the brother to play the star in this feature film called Hollywood Road Trip. The original name was Showboys, but they changed it to Hollywood Road Trip. The Showboys sounds kind of weird. So anyway, they said they saw your short film, dude, and they're going to drive up from LA to come see you. And I went, no kidding. They go, yeah, we're going to set up the studio here and you come audition and we'll give you the sides. And what the sides are is what piece of the script what you're going to be reading for your audition. So I was like, give me those sides then. Give me the sides. I got to see them. So I get those sides and I devour them. Like I'm driving around in my patrol car, memorizing it. Like I'm just going. Like people probably see me like, who's this nutburger talking to himself in his car, in his patrol car? There's a cop. Excuse me. There's a cop talking to himself.
Nope, that's just Hollywood being Hollywood.
That's right. Recognize. So I end up just killing this audition. I smoked it. They come up. I meet them. I smoke it. Probably one of the best auditions I've ever had in my life. I thank them for their time, for driving up. Then I go back to business. And in that line of work, it can be hurry up and wait, or it's, hey, let the chips fall where they may. You audition, leave it at the door, walk away, because you'll drive yourself absolutely bat crazy if you keep, oh, is my phone going to ring? Is my phone going to ring? You got to stay occupied, right? So I get a phone call from my manager. Hey, Brett, unfortunately, you didn't get the part, but they said you absolutely killed it. They loved it. They thought you were great, but they said you didn't look enough like the main guy. No problem. No big deal. I get it. Flash forward a week and a half later. So in this time, I'm starting to date my wife, right? A week later, I get a phone call. My manager, "What's up, Carolyn?" "Brett." I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "The main guy dropped out. They cast somebody else, and you look like him. Therefore, you are now in the film." And I went, "Oh, shoot, I booked it?" They go, "Just, you booked it. You are Dylan." And I went, "Oh," because that's a character's name. I was like, "Yes." I was like, "Thank the Lord." I was like, "This is awesome." So I get the part. I go, "When do I report?" They go, "They're going to be shooting next week. You be ready to go. Just, they will have been shooting already for a week. So you got to be ready to rock and roll." So anyway, I'm filming this movie, and my wife, we go on our date. Now bringing this back around, we're on our date, and she's telling me, let's talk. Tell me about yourself. And I'm telling her, like, I'm shooting a movie. She goes, "You're in a movie? That's interesting." And she's not like, "Oh, really?" It's just like, "Oh, really? That's cool. Because you were doing that." She's like, "Yeah, because you were doing that in LA. That's cool. That's interesting." She's like, "So what's your role?" And she's asking about it. She goes, that's really cool. That's awesome. Are you kind of nervous?" I go, "Honestly, I'm not, because I'm prepared. Preparation takes away nervousness, but also too, she says, "Are you excited?" I mean, you should be excited. I go, "I don't get excited until I'm sitting there saying my lines, because they can cut you at any given moment and say you're gone." She goes, "Oh, really?" She goes, "Oh, that's pretty cool. All right." And then she moves on, and I went, she's not impressed by this at all. And I was like, and I like it, because this is who I'm looking for. Like, I'm looking for someone who couldn't care less about this industry, right? So this is a road dog, right? This is a companion. This is somebody that's going to be a balance, right? Because you've seen how it goes if actors date other actors. It just doesn't work, right? It's like they're fighting for clout or something. So I love that about her. So I started shooting this movie, and everybody at the PD was like, "Oh, dude, this is great. You need to take vacation time? What's going on?" So PD, the police department, was really accommodating to my schedule. They were just so cool about the whole deal. And in that time, I got in my car accident. I started filming the movie, and then I got in the wreck. And when I got in my car accident, I mean, I don't even remember. I hit that thing. I was blacked out. I woke up a couple times, and I woke up. Someone was asking me, "Hey, is your uncle Larry?" I said, "Yeah, that's my uncle." My uncle was a firefighter in Fresno, and he called him. He goes, "I'm calling him right now." I pass back out. I wake up. Some ladies got me in a headlock in the emergency room, stapling my head together. And then I wake up again, and someone's tying my face up like shoelaces. And I went, "Oh my gosh." And then I pass out again. Then I wake up, and there's a shard hanging out of my elbow. And I wake up, and I look at it, and the chick's giving me a wire brush bath. I wake up, I grab this glass, and she goes, "No, no, no, no." And I pass back out. I wake up, my commander, my chief are in front of me. We talk about what happened. "You're good," all that stuff. And I immediately went, "Oh my gosh." My mom was there. I go, "Mom, you got to call Corinne." She goes, "Who's Corinne?" I was like, "You got to call her." I was texting her last night at like 9:00. And I don't want her to think that I'm ignoring her. You got to get back to her. I'm like, who's Corinne? What are we talking about here? I just started dating her, right? And then a couple people knew, like, "Oh, it's Corinne Winder." So anyway, I go back into my slumber. I wake up, and she's sitting at the hospital bed. I go, "Hey." And she goes, "Are you all right?" And so from there, had that not happened, that car accident, the next, several months, I was on my back, broken ribs, messed up face. She would come and see me at my house every day. Wow. So our relationship really, like, foundation was there. She, as a Christian, obviously, that's why I got into the relationship, because you're not supposed to be with anyone unequally yoked. So I was like, I'm looking for a strong Christian girl, God as the foundation. And during that time, though, I had lots of time to read. So I was diving into all these books that my friends were giving me, right? Dove into all of them. And really started digging into apologetics and the cults. And I wanted to be able to evangelize my Mormon friend, who I still love dearly to this day. He's still LDS, but I really studied the history of Mormonism and everything else. And I really there are so many guys that influenced me in the evangelical world. I don't want to exhaust talking too much about who they are, but anyway, that's where the journey started, and it continued from there. I married Corinne. Obviously, I think it's not a spoiler alert. ended up marrying Corinne. We have 5 children now. Betty, Bo, Piper, Mary Jo, and my son, Prudencio.
This episode is brought to you by Carolina Cases. Whether near home, auto, suitcase, or hotel, you can be assured that with Carolina Cases, you can protect what matters most. Carolina Cases are TSA approved, so you know that your items are secure in a shock and impact-proof hard case. These lightweight, durable cases come with pre-cut, protective, high-quality foam to fit your pistol by make and model, compact size or full size. They come in a universal configuration for multiple options. Carolina Cases are more than a pistol case. They are available in fully customizable foam to protect what matters. You can go to their website at www.carolinacases.net to see their design protective lid designs. Each is laser engraved to give you unmatched style at home or on the range. So to protect what matters most, visit www.carolinacases.net. That's www.carolinacases.net. Enter code BURROWS, that's BURROS, at checkout to receive free shipping. That's right. Just enter BURROWS at checkout and you'll receive free shipping.
That's where we are now. And I guess we can go from there, because from there...
I'm curious. So obviously at the wreck, did that mean that you lost the film? You were no longer in the movie?
I'm glad you asked. They like me so much. I had such a good relationship with them. They go, we're going to write it into the film. He's going to come. He's actually going to come save, because there's a point in the film where I go to save my brother. And when I go to save him, they write it in where the bad guy grabs me and pistol whips me. And I did it. So I ended up still filming. I filmed it about 4 days after my wreck. So I was under heavy drugs. My ribs were broken and my face was torched. So they wrote all that into it. And if you watch the film today, Hollywood Road Trip, you'll see my face at the end of the movie. I'm sitting there and my on-screen girlfriend is sitting next to me, kind of looking at my face or something like that. My face is just, it's all messed up. But yeah, they wrote it into the film and it worked. And then they wrote it into another film that I did, Firefall, where I was attacked by a bear in the past. So it's an existing scar. And then when I got Victory by Submission, as you saw, they wrote that in there when Alan Autry, my dad, he backfists me in the face and messes up my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that kind of played into your film career for a little bit there, huh?
Yeah, and I need a few more scars on my face anyway. So I was like, yeah, I got to get roughed up a little bit. So it worked. It's good.
So which is awesome about, you ended up with Little Winder, and you guys have a bunch of Little Winders / Prietos to get today, which I think is awesome. So obviously, Rick and I on the Burrows are preterists. And when did that happen for you? Like you've obviously, studied the cults. You've started looking into Strange Fire. Like you're really digging deep. So what happened? Like, how did that get you to where you are now? Like what happened, and explain that journey a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And I'm so glad you asked it. So as you mentioned before, I have the Warrior Chamber Studios channel. And when I first started that, it was mainly like cult ministry. It was abortion, abolition stuff. So I would go out there actually with Scott Brandon, how we started our relationship. And Scott, he wrote the book, The Oath, What If Jesus Already Came Back? And
yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Because, and I have not met Scott Brandon yet. Maybe you can introduce me to him.
Oh, I have to.
I'd love to have him on and hear his testimony too. I've heard a lot about what he does on like college campuses and stuff.
Oh, you should, man. That guy, he's been doing abolition outreach for, I think, a decade. Been going to college campuses. He's got his own channel where he's on campus, right, doing that stuff. But I went out there with him. And he was looking for guys to come serve with him. And I was already like, you know what? I'm listening to Apologia with Jeff Durbin, watching what they're doing. Jeff is definitely somebody who's played a huge role in because that's when I started getting into the cult stuff, I found Jeff. And that was back in 2013 or something like that. So I followed him from there. And Jeff was talking about Matthew 24 already had happened. And I went, okay, all right, that goes against my MacArthurism. So that's kind of weird. Maybe I'll hold on to MacArthur still, but I can have my Jeff over here, right? Like I can hold on to this eschatology, but still have this here. So I put that aside. I was like, yeah, it's fine. That eschatology stuff's just above my pay grade. It's too weird and wonky. I don't want to get into it. It's a lot of work. My field is in Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm going to stay right there. Now I've got into the abortion ministry, so now I'm looking more into that with Scott. And then another guy named Taylor Davidson that became essentially my partner in crime when we would sit down with LDS and have encounters, things like that. But what really, the first seed that was planted of preterism was Dr. Walter Martin, who was not a preterist at all. Walter Martin's eschatology was a little wonky and weird. You couldn't really, it was kind of like trying to nail Jello to the wall. I couldn't really pick, because he was like, he didn't believe in a rapture, then sometimes he would mention it, and then he was like post-trib. I couldn't really tack onto it, but what he did say was this, that stuck out to me. I was in my backyard doing yard work, and I had the headphones on listening to him, and he gives this, he's given the illustration talking about one will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken, one will be left. And he goes completely of what I was taught. He says the one that was taken away is the wicked, but the righteous are left. And I went, I've never heard that before. But it makes sense, right? Noah was left here. Just because he was taken up in a boat doesn't mean he was taken off the earth. The wicked were taken away. And I went, okay, that's interesting. So the seed was planted. And then Jeff had planted a few seeds as well. And I started getting introduced to Douglas Wilson by way of Jeff Durbin. And I went, okay. Like I started hearing a little bit more about preterism or postmillennialism. And when it really hit me in, well, let me back it up a little bit. I used to listen to Daily Wire a lot. I don't really anymore. But I was really listening to Ben Shapiro when he was hot as a pistol. And when Ben Shapiro went on John MacArthur, I was listening to that whole thing while I was in a trench working for my dad. So this is post-cop career. And I'm listening to him, and oh my gosh, John MacArthur gave Ben Shapiro the gospel. But Ben was rejecting it as Ben does. And I was like, why doesn't he accept this? I don't get it. Apologia Radio comes on about a week later, and they say, I forget what the title was, but it was like refuting Brother MacArthur's eschatology. And I went, oh, I got to hear this. And it was like a 3-hour deal. And I went, yeah, MacArthur, he's got some holes in that eschatology, man. I mean, what these guys are saying really makes sense to me. Okay? So I started kind of listening to more of their stuff, but I couldn't explain it. I knew that's what it was, but I went, I don't know if I really want to come out right and start defending this because I don't get it. I can't explain it like these guys can. So I'll just shelve it as that tertiary issue or open-handed issue, whatever you want to call it, right? The secondary. Then COVID happened. Right before COVID, there was this guy, this charismatic guy, who pretty much took the charismatic world by storm. His name was Dana Coverstone. And he came out saying that he got a vision. And I have a whole refutation. I have a couple refutation videos of this guy, of what exactly he said. So if you go on there, it's about 4 years old. And it was all surrounded around end times and boots. A white figure came to him. So this is thus says the Lord, right? So it's a thus says the Lord. He's getting this from God. So now let's test him in light of Deuteronomy 18, right? If a prophet, he's getting prophecy is what he's saying. So therefore, you can't have a prophecy void of a prophet, right? So this guy's claiming to be a prophet. Let's hear what dude has to say. So my mother-in-law, who's a charismatic, love her to death, she's like, oh, there's this guy named Dana Coverstone. He's saying that there's going to be boots on the ground. China is going to be here and Russia. Boots are going to be on the ground come November, yada, yada, yada. So you had all this end times sort of language going on. And I went, I got to refute this guy, but I need to get into this eschatology thing. So enter Gary DeMar. And I had been introduced to Gary by way of Apologia, right, by Jeff Durbin, because I'd seen Gary talk, and I always thought he was so articulate and great. And I went, what books do I need? Where does he at? American Vision? I was like, yeah, American Vision. Get on there and go, okay, he's got Last Days Madness. He's got Is Jesus Coming Soon? I'm getting those. Boom. I get Is Jesus Coming Soon? I go, oh my gosh. This is what I'm looking for, man. This is awesome. Before Jerusalem Fell comes in the mailbox. I start reading Gentry's book, Before Jerusalem Fell. I went, oh my gosh, okay. I'm getting this, man. Mark of the, the Beast of Revelation, got that too. So I'm just eating these up. And then he has Wars and Rumors of Wars. And Is Jesus Coming Soon on steroids. So now I got this. And I went, okay, I'm reading this book and I'm starting to refute this guy going, this guy is wrapping up all this stuff into an end times paradigm, because whenever someone's getting dreams and visions, they're seeing Russia, who they think is Roche, right? Gog and Magog. It's all playing in it because I'm hearing his language, but I'm going, I can't quite put a pin in this. So once I got a hold of all these books, and then I'm reading Doug Wilson, When the Man Comes Around. I'm watching all of Jeff's exposition of Matthew 24. And now I'm starting to, as I called it, post-mill pilling people. I would start to lay the groundwork because everybody in COVID, it's the last days, man. It's end times. I don't know if I buy that. Why? And then I would throw it out. Then Jesus is a false prophet. Because in Matthew 24, he says, he puts it on a T after he leaves the temple. Matthew 23, right? You have to look at this in context. He just came from that temple. All the disciples are looky-looing. Oh, look at the edifices. Look how great this is. And he says what? Surely I say to you, there will not be left here one stone left upon another will not be cast down. He goes east of the Mount of Olives, just like Yahweh did in the Old Testament, right? And they go, okay, all right, tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Not end of the world, but end of the aeon, right? This age. What was coming to this climax, right? This fever pitch. This Old Testament, the Old Testament covenant, right, was coming to a fever pitch. And Messiah had come on time per Daniel 2. And I'm going, he's here. The Messiah is here. He's that rock that's cut out of a mountain. It's going to shatter this fourth kingdom. But he tells them this, right? All right, don't be deceived, guys. You're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilence. And there's going to be false messiahs. And he lines us all up. And at about 34, he says, this generation, truly I say to you, this generation, the generation in whom he's speaking to, right? He always, whenever he says this generation, it was always to the audience in whom he was speaking with. But if you're somebody like Tommy Ice, who's debating Gary DeMar, he would concede to that, except for right here in Matthew 24. Except for right here. Just in that one instance right here, he's not talking to them. So I'd always would hear, so you heard it said, right? You would hear the generation that sees these things. But what did Jesus say? He said, this generation. So I went, he did. He said that. And you always heard from guys like Greg Laurie and David Jeremiah, there'll be an increase in earthquakes. And you go, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say there's going to be an increase in earthquakes. It says earthquakes in various places. And then when you track the book of Acts, you go, dude, there were false messiahs in here. There was an earthquake at Jesus' crucifixion, at his resurrection. We're seeing these things were happening in their context, guys. And so when I started laying that out, and I dropped it on Scott Brandon, who you will meet, so I'm responsible for his preterism because he was pre-mill dispensational, die in the wool, and I introduced that to him, and he goes, I'm convinced. He'd already heard it from my buddy Taylor, but he's like, nah, he poo-pooed it. Then when I started laying it out, showing it to him from Scripture, lining it up with history and how it fits like a glove, he was, okay, I got it. And then he started listening to you guys. He was listening to you guys before he introduced me to you guys. So he's like, you didn't listen to Burroughs of Berea? I was like, nah, I haven't heard him before. And because I had been showing him Durbin and Wilson and everything else and cross politic. And then he started digging deeper and he started asking more questions. And then as I was talking to different people, more people were being convinced by it and being challenged. But there's some people that are like, I see it, but I don't know. Because it was going so hard against their traditions. They were so held captive to this concept of this pre-mill dispensationalism, right? And
Yeah, and I was that same way, Brett. It took me a hot minute because I was like, wait a second. So you're
Yeah.
going to tell me that everybody that I ever know and loved was wrong? Are you serious? That's hard that's a tough pill to swallow.
it is. All my heroes have been wrong, right? They were wrong about this. And I'm going,
The bad
okay.
thing is they're still wrong.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate thing, man, is they're still wrong. And here's the thing. It's always the same talking points that can easily be refuted, right? You have this paradigm, and you always know where they're going to go in that paradigm, right? And you look at it, the paradigm is memorized. They look at it and they go, well, this is that, this is this. So they'll go, man of sin, okay, Antichrist. Handshake deal with Israel, 3 years of peace, then all hell's going to break loose. And you go, well, okay, let's break that down. So you have a gap between the 69th and 70th week. Where's the gap? What do you mean? You have to insert this parenthetical there. And there's a 2,000 years of the quote unquote so-called church age, right? And we're in that church age, and it's going and going and going. And you have this Antichrist. That name Antichrist isn't even found in Daniel. It's not even found in the book of Revelation, but it gets shoehorned in here because of the paradigm, right? Yep. So when you start laying that out, and you actually give the true definition of Antichrist, they're like, okay, I see it. And then you go, so then you think, so do you really think that 2/3 of the Jews are going to get ushered back in to be slaughtered? And, oh man, what? Yeah, I get, and no one wants to say that. No one wants to concede that, yeah, 2/3 of the Jews are going to be slaughtered because it's so horrible.
Yeah,
right?
that's the part about it that always kind of surprised me was, what's the rush? Like, why are we trying to rush ourselves into the end time? Do you realize how many people have to die? Do you realize how much blood has to be spilled? Do you realize the carnage? And it's like, hurry up, let's get this done because we get out of here. And it's like, oh boy. I mean, where's the compassion,
Totally. Like we get to, as Doug Wilson says, we get lifted off on the Saigon rescue mission. And then we get to stand on the balcony with John Hagee, this is what he says, and watch the world burn as we're standing next to Peter and Paul going, oh, look at that one. It's like, come on, it's such a bad eschatology when you start, and it does affect people. And here's another thing, is what Scott mentions in his book, The Oath. Preterism is the antithesis to the end times cults. Because all these cults are wrapped up in the end times, in extra biblical revelation, right? If you have Daniel 9, if you believe that would seal up vision and prophecy when Jerusalem fell, then you don't have vision and prophecy anymore. So this pre-mill dispensationalism, oddly enough, pre-mill dispensationalism came in the 19th century when all these cults were booming, right? You have the Millerites, the Russellites, you have, which is related to the Adventists. You have Joseph Smith, publishes 1830, the Book of Mormon. Jehovah's Witnesses, they come out, they're an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventists, and it's all surrounding end time stuff. And every one of them, all their so-called prophets, their presidents, prophets, seers, and revelators, have all gotten this end times thing wrong because of what? Because of misinterpretation of the Bible, as Jesus is coming soon. And every one of them is going to quote Matthew 24. I have tracts from Jehovah's Witnesses that will always cite Matthew 24 without fail, or Mark 13 or Luke 21, every single time. So it's our job to go, look, you have to let the text speak. Audience relevance, you have to let Scripture interpret Scripture. And what was Jesus saying here? What did he mean? What was looming around the corner? What was ready to pass away? Like it says in Hebrews 8:13, what was ready to pass away? Were all these guys wrong? I mean, Paul says the end of the ages has come upon us. You have Peter saying that he's in the last time, the end is at hand. James, in James 5:7 through 9, he's saying he's at the door. He's not at the neighbor's house. He's not at the town over. He's not overseas. He's at your door. Like, it's coming, baby. Like, it's coming soon. But that that plays heavily into the cult system, and it's unfortunate that we as Christians share a similar. Most we don't, but most Christians, they buy into an end time scheme that agrees with cults, and that should cause us to pause a little bit, because you go, man, we could speak so much light into these people, going, look, Jesus kept his promises. He didn't delay. He was long suffering in that generation. And now you have Christians since 1988, 88 reasons why the rapture is in 1988, when that didn't happen, or in 89, or late Great Planet Earth, when all this stuff didn't happen. They've changed the time of the generation to, I heard a guy the other day, and I sent it to Sullivan. He might do a refutation video on it. He quotes the Psalms, one of the Psalms, I can't remember which one, and he says a generation is probably 70 to 80 years, because that's a lifetime, and that's a generation. So without saying that it's going to happen in 2028, in so many words, you could read between the lines and go, oh, this guy's saying that we are the terminal generation, because guys, we got to be the star in this film. We have to be in this end times action movie. We're not. So if we're post-trib, we get to be like Mad Max. Like, we're not doing anything for the kingdom right now, but somehow we're going to get this jolt of energy. We're going to put the shoulder pads on. We're going to get the razors out in the desert, and we're going to be passing around the gospel and being hardcore Christians. You're like, dude, if you're not doing it now, you really think you can be doing it at that time? So it's just, everybody has this weird fantasy of, no, guys, you make sure you have plenty of gas, I can't tell you how many texts I got from family saying, guys, make sure you gassed up. Make sure you got plenty of cash on hand, because there's pictures of army tanks right now that are being shuttled on this railroad track. It's like, dude, they do that all the time. They're shipping gear. It's like, what are you talking about? Anyway, that was my rant. Not that I haven't been ranting this whole time.
Well, they just released Furiosa, another post-apocalyptic movie.
That's right. That's right. Correct. So people want, they have to be in the scenario, right? They have to be in it because of how for some reason it's glamorous. I don't know why, but it's sad that this hope is delayed, right? The hope is delayed of what they have. It's out there somewhere, but it's right around the corner. We're just waiting, guys. He's coming back any minute.
This episode is brought to you by Carolina Cases. Whether in your home, auto, suitcase, or hotel room, you can be assured that with Carolina Cases, you can protect what matters most. Carolina Cases are TSA approved, so you know your items are secured in a shock and impact-proof hard case. These lightweight, durable cases come with pre-cut, protective, high-quality foam to fit your pistols by make and model, compact size, or full size. They also come in a universal configuration for multiple options. Carolina Cases are more than a pistol case. They are available in fully customizable foam to protect what matters. You can go to their website at www.carolinacases.net to see their designer protective lid designs. Each is laser engraved to give you unmatched style at home or on the range. So protect what matters most. Visit www.carolinacases.net. That's www.carolinacases.net. Enter code BURROWS at checkout to receive free shipping. That's right. Just enter the code BURROWS at checkout and you'll receive free shipping.
With all that being said, what really pushed me over the edge, guys, is the Gary DeMar fiasco.
And the controversy?
Correct.
Oh, does anybody know where that started? I wonder if anybody really knows where that started. You know where the controversy began?
I would like to think that I do, but why don't you take it? Go ahead.
It was on the Burrows.
Oh, come on. Was it really?
He gave his testimony, and he gave an answer to the question that I'm going to let Rick ask you here in a minute. And when he asked that question, when he answered the question, it went kind of like mini viral, and all of the people lost their minds.
Yeah, oh, nice work. Wow.
Yep, because I've talked to him several times about it. I was like, the last time I saw you, man, it wasn't We got in trouble. He's like, you got in trouble.
Well, he also then followed it up with the conference at the
Yeah, going to the Berean Bible Church conference
Berean Bible.
really didn't help, did it? Yeah.
No, not at all.
Anyway, sorry about that, Brett.
No, shoot, I've been talking enough, man.
I just like taking credit for getting people in trouble.
We're just being the asses that we are.
Yeah, that's right. And you got there you go, right there. That's right. That's all right. And you got a
shameless plug for Gary DeMar again. What's the name of that book, Rick, that we bought that has all those end time statements?
Oh yeah, it's actually Frank Gumerlock's book, Francis Gumerlock. Gary DeMar publishes it, but it's The Day and the Hour. Have you ever read that book?
I have not, but
dude, it's fantastic. I mean, it's like for the last 2,000 years, the church.
It's like this thick.
Yeah, it's like that thick. Yeah, like an inch thick, and it's just slap full. Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
That's some heavy lifting. But real quick, it popped in my head. I'm reading Charles Meek's book right now, Evangelical Preterism. It's a longer title, but it's Evangelical Preterism. It's outstanding, man. It's really good. But the Gary DeMar thing really, it actually got me fired up, to be quite honest with you, because I really admire Gary, and his work in eschatology really helped me a ton, helped me understand. The book of Revelation and the Bible took on a whole new world for me after that. And I went, oh my gosh, I have to really look at this in context, this book. And I haven't, because especially when you look at things in paradigms, it really challenged me going, everyone just kind of mixes and matches and cherry picks a lot of their theology, or whatever you want to say. Theology, eschatology, soteriology, pneumatology, all the ologies. But I want to know it for myself. Like, I need to see what the text says, right? Because Jesus says what? You heard it said. But check this out. And I want to be a Berean, right? I want to be a Berean, put my money where my mouth was. Not that I hadn't been doing that, but even more so in this field. And you understand how big this arrival was of Messiah. Like, we just kind of like gloss over that, how big this was. This Messiah coming onto the scene, right? Him coming on the scene and fulfilling all these things that he said he was going to do. And so that was a big deal, as Gary really opened up, and others, right? Like Doug and Jeff and those guys. But what really rubbed me the wrong way is I realized you cannot put your heroes up on pedestals. You can't. Because now mom and dad were fighting, right? Mom and dad were fighting. You had Gary was getting attacked by Doug, by Jeff, by James White, all the guys that I was watching and listening to and reading, and I went, what's going on? Why are mom and dad fighting? I got to know. And it was, I have questions. I have questions for you. And I went, you know what? When I was a new believer, I had lots of questions, and I wanted them answered. And what's wrong with asking questions? And they wanted to nail them down. You need to answer this question. But being the scholar that Gary is, he goes, no, I'm not just going to, these aren't yes or no questions. You have to give me sight. You have to give me chapter and verse of what you're applying to Jesus' second coming. Because if you default to the creeds, they're going to cite Matthew 24, or the Westminster Confession is going to be the same. And I knew that Gentry and Wilson, they have collision when it comes to Matthew 24. And Gary points that out, and I go, they're not even on the same page, but they're attacking my guy over here, right? It's like, this isn't cool. Like, I don't like that. So at that point, as Gary has said before, you need to clear the proverbial chessboard of its fixed pieces and just look at what this says. And I'm going to do it. And my friend Scott Brandon, he'd already gone over into full preterism, and I was still holding on to post mill because of 1 Corinthians 15, and there was one other one that I was still and Revelation 20, because the other guy, I mean, Doug and Jeff, they hold on to those. But if you look at anything else, they're pretty close to full. They're pretty close to full preterist, with the exception of those two. And then I started digging. I went, okay, here's my question. Is at what point when Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10:11, the end of the ages comes upon us. In 1 Corinthians 15, when he says, then the end will come. At what point in between there did his definition of the end change? I want to know. And nobody that I've seen in that camp has answered that question. I challenged somebody before, and they gave me some canned answer, and I was like, no, you're not even answering my question. And
it's an obvious answer. It's the obvious answer. And that's the part we get shrouded because we've been filtering based on all of this data that we've been given our whole lives. That's a great question that you're asking.
Yeah.
And it's the obvious answer.
Correct.
That's the hard part. Nobody wants to handle the obvious answer.
They don't. So for me, that hit me between the eyes, and I went, now you, dude, are you going to go with what your guys have been saying, or are you really going to really take a look at this? And then from there's a guy that I've been avoiding for a while, by the name of Don Preston. And I watched him shred Jason Wallace to bits probably 6 or 7 years prior. And I went, and I watched a few clips. I didn't watch the whole debate because I was watching it and I went, this is really challenging me, man. I don't know if I like this. And he's a heretic. That's right. All my guys say these full preterists are heretics. He's a heretic anyway. But guess what? I'm a heretic now too.
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
I figured you guys needed one more ass, so I just
bring it, baby, bring it.
We like that California ass. That's what I'm talking about. It's Arizona now. Man, it means a lot to me that you came to be on our show with us.
Well, I did. It was a pleasure, man. And I'm sorry if I was an oxygen thief, just kind of rambling and talking.
No, that's wonderful. I love it. I'm glad you got it out. And so before we end this, and Rick, I want you to ask the Billy question if you don't mind, but can you go ahead and tell our audience how to find you, like your YouTube channel, or how do we find you?
Okay, yeah, you can find me on. Okay, so Warrior Chamber Studios is where I do most of my work. You're going to see some discernment videos. You're going to see a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses because the Lord has just dumped a ton in my lap. I can't hit a corner without seeing one, and I just so happen to have a camera in my car at all times, and I just click on my phone and I start talking, right? So you'll see a lot of that. There's been a lot of fruit from that. Praise the Lord, of people, eyes are being opened and things of that nature. Also, you'll see some Mormonism stuff on there, but mainly you'll find me there. I keep it pretty low key because I have a tendency, I'm a fighter. So I have a tendency to want to always engage people. So I don't do Facebook. I don't do the Instagram stuff. I don't do any of that. My wife has the YouTube app on her phone, so she can filter stuff and heart the videos, like the video, or heart the comments, like the comments. And if something merits a response of someone, can you help me? I say, my email is in the description, and I will give my email right now. It's B as in boy, M as in Mary, Prieto 10@gmail.com. So it's bmprieto10@gmail.com. I will respond there because I don't see a lot of fruit when I engage in the comments and have some sort of jousting match. I don't feed trolls because they keep coming back. And that's what I tell people is that if you're a troll and I feed you, you're going to keep coming back. So stay away. But if you're serious and you really want to have a discussion or you want to even debate me, go to that website or go to my email and talk to me there, right? So those are the main, that right there is the main place you can find me is my email. Like I said, maybe in the future, if the channel continues to grow, because it is growing, I might do an Instagram. My channel on Rumble is very small. I haven't been on it in a long time, but I will start posting more stuff there because we do need more alternative media, parallel economies. So I would submit that the boroughs might need to do that, but one thing at a time. I know. So anyway, you can find me there.
Just so you know, we actually have a Rumble channel.
Nice.
And we are updating it right now. We have a a woman that's handling all of our content and data, and she is doing that right now. We have a YouTube channel now. Can you believe it? I mean, it took us long enough.
I know you guys got to get on that party, man. That's for sure.
We were like dispensational when it came to YouTube.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Hey, Rick, why don't you ask that final question, will you?
Hey, Brett.
Yes, sir.
When your heart stops beating, when that day comes and your brain shuts down, what happened next to you?
Man, well, sorry, I'm kind of.
Answer it with your best Keanu Reeves voice. No, I'm just kidding.
No, Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen.
Honestly, I'm going to leave that in God's hands. I don't really know the answer to that. I just don't know. I'm not quite sure. Sorry.
I love it.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So the question I can answer to that is going to be the opposite answer that I gave to my friend when I was a freshman in high school. When I was a freshman in high school, I said I was going to go to hell. But by God's grace, by the finished work of Jesus Christ, who kept all of his promises, who says he has all authority in heaven and on earth, and he says to disciple the nations, that same Jesus who says that he disarmed all rulers and authorities by nailing it to the cross. And as he told the thief on the cross, today you'll be with me in paradise. As soon as he transformed my heart, made me a new creation, and he delivered me from the domain of darkness and transferred me into his kingdom, the kingdom of the beloved Son, where there is the redemption of sins. My standing completely changed. Where when God sees me now, when I die, when I'm absent from the body and present with him, he's not going to see all my garbage. He's not going to see all those things I did in the past, all my junk, right? He's not even going to see my good works, so my so-called good works, right? What he's going to see is the robes of his Son, and he's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Amen.
That was a great answer. Well, Brett Prieto, guys, go and watch Hollywood Road Trip and go watch Victory by Submission. That is a really good film. I enjoyed that film.
I'm glad you did. So, yeah, and actually, guys, you can watch it free on YouTube. The distributors posted it on YouTube. So if you just go to Victory by Submission, you can find it there, and you can watch it for free. You'll probably get some commercials, some ads, but hey, whatever. You can't be free, man. Free 99 is my favorite price. So
free 99, yeah. So I'll put a link down in the comments. So whether you're listening to this on the podcast, it'll be in the front paragraph, or on YouTube, it'll be down below in the description. So click on that link and go watch Victory by Submission, and you'll get to see one of my favorite actors besides Brett back in the day, Lee Majors from the Fall Guys in that film.
Yeah,
$6 million man.
Yeah, and he was an awesome guy. So I will say that. Really nice.
The $6 million man is the reason why Rick Carter got his butt whooped when he was a kid.
Oh, yeah, got lit up, son.
Tell Brett real quick.
Oh, my gosh. I was probably 3 years old and watching the $6 Million Man. And while it was playing, I'm plundering around in the house, and I look in the closet, and there's a BB gun, a Red Ryder BB gun that my cousin had left. I don't know why it was there, but it was there.
It's really good. I love it. All right.
So I have to get it out of the closet, and I'm sort of playing with it while I'm watching Lee Majors do the action on it, lever action, get it ready, and the bad guy's on the center of the screen, right at the TV. So I do the natural thing as little boy would do, and I pulled the trigger. And that was back then when the TVs, that was late 70s. So the TVs back then were gas tubes. And it put
the boob tube.
Yes, real glass tube. And that little BB put a little hole straight in it.
I guarantee you, I'm telling you right now, that was an expensive TV too for our day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
you had to be pacing around that house before Dad came home from work.
Well, in that current situation, just my mom, but I can tell you, it was not a good day at all.
Hey, don't worry.
Brett.
We've all paid the dumb tax in our past as well. So
Absolutely.
no worries.
Brett, thanks so much for being on our show, man. It means a lot to me.
Thank you.
And let's keep in touch, brother.
Yeah, anytime, if you're looking to talk about anything else, whatever eschatology stuff, whatever, man, I'm down. It was a pleasure being on here, and first time I've really been asked to be a guest. So this is not only your first broadcast, or am I your first guest live or not?
You're going to be the first video we've done on YouTube.
Beautiful. Yeah, shoot, man, this is the first time I've been asked to be a guest. So it's a night of first time. So. That's
awesome.
And
it's gonna blow our 17 subscribers.
Ooh, hey,
it's like WWF in the house.
Woo! Yeah, you be styling footballing. I got the fancy watches and limousines.
Got the shades on. Got Precious around my arm.
Woo! That's right.
Yeah, that's good stuff. But anyway, I probably honestly, Brett, I want to bring you back, because I want to talk about the cults, and I do. You really are like the master of this, and so I want to bring you back on to talk about Jehovah's Witness theology as well as Mormon theology, and give us some insight on how, obviously, as full preterists, we have a lot that we can bring to the table because we understand eschatology and the eschaton and end time prophecy, and so we know what to do with that. But some people that don't, that aren't preterists necessarily and are still in premillennial or whatever. We have a lot of people in our audience, even within our cast. I want to give them some tools to be able to help them talk to them. So I'd love to bring you back for that.
Yeah, I've actually got a close cousin that's like a brother to me that I grew up with. He is been a Mormon for quite some time in a little segment of the area where I live. It's like in the middle of nowhere, and little Mormon church out in the middle of nowhere, but his family's Mormon, and recently had a conversation to him like last week or a couple weeks ago, and mentioned some preterist things to him, but I can't, I don't have the experience or the knowledge to combat the knowledge that he has with Mormonism.
Sure. Yeah. No.
So let's bring you back. Let's bring you back, Brett. I want to do that.
No, I love to, man. I've been studying those for over a decade now, and I've read their material. I got books and books back there. I honestly, and I say this, that's not a flex, it's a fact, but I probably know more about Joseph Smith than majority of Mormons. So I would love to, because they are the ministry at our doorstep. We have to be able to teach them, hey, we have to be Bereans. Let me show you what this says in light of what you have over here, right? And testing their prophets, right? Like we have to be able to do that. And it can be eye-opening, but also it's loving them into that, because it takes work. Like I said earlier, not to go on a tangent because we're closing up here, but my friend who is a detective, he's still a Mormon, and I gave him a lot. But at this point, it's the Holy Spirit that's going to change his heart, because he heard what I said, he knew what I said, and he knows all the false prophecies, all the contradictions that Mormonism, Doctrine and Covenants, Pro Great Price have with the Bible, but also how all their standard works contradict one another. But still, it's such a stronghold, just like anything else. We know this because of eschatology, the traditions, the sectarianism. It holds people captive to their concepts, and we have to be willing to be patient. We be patient with these people and not try and go, look, I gave it all to you. You need to just change now. It's like, no, it takes some work, man. Some people, boom, they hear it. But you have to be there for them, because if this isn't right, then nothing else can be right. And a lot of them go into atheism, which is a sad truth. So guys like us have to be there to pick up the pieces that aren't going to shun them, aren't going to apostatize them, correct? And we can relate to that because of our experience diving into preterism, because a lot of people that I know, and you'll have Scott Brandon on this, he can tell you his experience of what happened to him in his church.
Yeah. So, and please introduce us to Scott, will you? Maybe through email, and send us just me and Rick if you don't care. I'll send that screenplay you said that we could read. I'd love to check it out.
Yeah.
I think you'll dig it. Yeah, I think you'll dig it. It's fun.
Then we can
Awesome.
drag
Well,
you down
thanks,
some of
Brett.
the big rabbit holes we go down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us, Brett. I really do appreciate it. Big Daddy, thanks for joining with us. And then,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
All
So thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you guys. I love you guys.
Thanks,
I
Brett.
appreciate it. Have a
Love
good
you,
one.
bro.
Okay? All right,
Thanks,
man.
man.
Yes, sir.
You bet.
Love you too.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, this is Rick from the Burros of Berea. A lot of people have been asking us, hey, what is this Patreon thing? Our old Patreon ad didn't work very well. So here you go, guys. Go to www.patreon. That is patreon.com. Let me do that again. patreon.com/the Burros of Berea. If you go to the Patreon page, you will find that we have different levels that you can give at. We have a $3 level, a $5 level. We've got a $10 level and a $20 level. I thought about putting a $1,000 level there, but you never know how that's going to work out, right, Andy? That's right. So go to www.patreon.com/the Burros of Berea and give us all of your money.
Even a little bit will be fine.
Yeah. And that 5,000 wouldn't hurt me either.
No, it would hurt nobody.
Thanks, guys.
Hey everyone, it's Andy. This episode. Why did my mouth fail? Say hi, Greg.